So good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here, for joining us for our breakfast panel with so many great women we have here on the panel. So this is all about unstoppable women today. And now we would like to start. And also we're trying to be very time conscious, so we get a lot of information out of these great women. So I don't try to be me, but I will try to keep us on time, okay? All right, good morning. So we would like to start with kind of an elevator pitch where each of you will tell us what you think keeps women still from being really unstoppable. So Laura, may I hand over to you?
Yeah, so I'm Laura Lane. I'm the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer for UPS, and I also serve as the Chief Sustainability Officer. And so I think a lot about how we can deliver social impact. And one of the most important programs that we have underway at UPS is how to figure out how to get more women engaged in global trade. And we've done a lot of studies and analysis, and we've found that oftentimes women are on the sidelines. Even though they've got amazing businesses and amazing ideas, they often don't have either the skills to be able to engage in global trade. Sometimes there's regulatory barriers or laws or regulations that prevent them from being able to enter into business arrangements. Believe it or not, sometimes in countries around the world, women can't open bank accounts in their own names without a male co-signer. Sometimes they can't own property in their own names. Sometimes they have a lot of restrictions on their ability to open businesses. And other times it's about the fundamental issues that any small and medium-sized business faces, which are some of the hurdles that they have to go through because of the complexity associated with trade. And UPS is all about making all of our small and medium-sized businesses unstoppable, but we really focus on women because we think if women who face some of the most of the barriers to engaging in trade, if we can solve those challenges with them, we can make them unstoppable in a global context. And so we're really proud of our Women's Exporter program, which really hones in on skills training, on access to financing, and advocacy support in terms of making trade easier. Because we believe when trade's easier, more trade happens. And we'd love it if more women were engaging in that trade with us.
Thank you.
It's a hard act to follow. So I'm Pauline. I'm the U.S. Consul General here in Düsseldorf, serving the state of NRW. And as I was considering this question, what are the things that make a woman unstoppable? I think I will put it in three different categories. One is that there's systemic, there's structural, and there's societal. And the other area is circumstantial. There are major events that happen in one's life, just as milestones, but that affect women differently. But the third, I think, is personal. And I think it's due to the structural, societal, systemic, and the circumstantial that we process things differently, and then we somehow set barriers for our own selves. I would much more like to frame the question in a different way as to rather what makes a woman unstoppable. What can we do to make women more unstoppable, or how do we make women unstoppable? In there, I think it's the same three things. I think firstly the personal, and then because that's where the changes can come most immediately and most effectively, and then on the circumstantial, how do we deal with things such as having a child or taking care of the elderly and all of those really challenging questions where the burdens still overwhelmingly fall on a woman. And then from there, influence in the societal level and the structural level and the systemic level. All of those things feed into each other. It's an iterative cycle. It's not that you fix one dimension and then you can go on and move on to fix the other. But I have to say, in my time, I really have seen a lot of changes, but I do know that it is not enough. And I'm so happy to see that there are also many men in the audience, because without the the coalition, without the alliance, the changes that we need would not be possible. And don't think that it's a sacrifice or somehow that your territory or your turf or your real estate is being then taken, or because I do see that mentality a lot, but rather that we all gain. We all gain if we make every talent, every aspect of our society realize its full potential. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. My name is Theresa Winkels, and I'm in my ordinary life the director of the economic development of the city of Düsseldorf. It's a very great honor to be the first female leader in this position in the city of Düsseldorf. And as well, we started with this K67, with this hub. I actually am I started the initiative to found this place. And at the site of Frank from UPS, together we are a tandem representing AmCham in North Rhine-Westphalia. And so there are 3 positions where I come out of, and I thought about what are the 3 main points actually concerning women to be still a little bit stoppable in Germany. This is a German perspective. I think first of all it's mindset and cultural issues. It's how you grew up, what kind of role models you have had around in your family. I've had a mom who was working, I've had 2 grandmas who worked and were the heads and the faces of the companies my family owned in the past. So I've had a different mindset, and then in the end it's as well the mindset how you define your own role. What do you want in your own family? How do you manage your time, your family, your issues of life? The second one in Germany is a legal thing, a legal and formal framework. We still have some very odd rules which sometimes make it difficult in a calculation of a family to decide that the female part as well takes her responsibility the same way the male one can. So the third one is, if you're honest, it's a matter of calculation and money. So these 3 points, I think, are to be focused to make a difference in future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stefania Lettini. I'm a business owner here in Düsseldorf, and I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for having me. I think I'm going to help me a little bit with my cards and my notes. I hope that's fine. I think we have, in a nutshell, it's a combination of 3 things that are very important. I think systemic barriers, as you all mentioned before, societal biases, and obviously the self-limiting beliefs. I think this is especially for Germany relevant. I was very happy to stay 1 year in the US, so I got a little bit of the entrepreneurship mindset. I was very happy to inhale that and to get the idea of you can achieve everything you set your mind to, and I'm very grateful for that. And I think it's very important that we need to promote women in businesses like we do today, and to enforce and to empower each other, that we all should work together, and to be an inspiration for women. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I couldn't agree more with all your great points. And now I would like to ask Pauline, because you've worked and experienced cultures all around the world. You know the business community all around the world. And how would you describe the American business community, and particularly also the support from the community for business women? And is there also anything specific that sets the US startup scene apart? Is there anything also specific about the culture, the entrepreneurial culture also for women?
I wish I could answer that question well, because America, in the American business culture, is one that I probably know the least, because all my years I've been spending, in other places. So it's a little bit tougher for me. There is a kind of a fundamental distinction, I think, between the American mentality and then what I see in other places. And I find a very interesting dichotomy, because in the United States, we're actually quite behind in certain things. We, on the one hand, believe in equal opportunity and equality, but that also means that sometimes it's a hook for us not to deal with inequities that are inherent in our system. Because you make this assumption that the playing field is set and it is inherent, that it is this is what it is, and we treat you equally if we don't give you any extra help. But there are inherent biases that have already been baked into the system. And so I find women in the United States having to deal with a lot of those burdens that, for example, in Germany, that are taken into consideration. For example, like maternity leave. We at the State Department didn't have actual maternity leave until last year. And before that, if you were pregnant and you gave birth, which can be a massively traumatic physical experience, not to mention the emotional, you had to take sick leave. You consider sick if you were creating a life. And so that is very, very backward, wrong, and completely anachronistic, completely out of date. I could go on and on about different examples, but I do think in the United States, there is a trait. We can all learn so much from each other, the best attributes and aspects and practices from each other, incorporate that and make the changes in a small way, which will then turn into something major, something big. But what I think in the United States is inherent in our mentality is that we are very adaptable, we are very flexible, and we're generally somewhat optimistic and positive. And that is, I think, the necessary ingredient for solving really recognizing any challenge and solving the problem. There was I worked with the military at one point in my career, and my commander loved to say, we have to stop admiring the problem. Mm-hmm. We have to, and I understand that. And I just saw, I'm so sorry, I'm taking a long time with this, but I also saw this little snippet, maybe it was on Instagram or on some, when I was scrolling through something, but there was a snippet of an Obama interview. And his advice to young people, what is one advice that you would give to young people? He said, be the one who gets things done. And I have to say, more and more, I'm permeated with this mentality. I don't want to admire the problem. I understand the problem very well. I want to find the solution. And I don't want to be the one to talk about all the things that we can do. I want to be the one getting things done. And so I'm so heartened by this group. I'm so grateful for UPS and to AmCham for bringing these women together to have a positive orientation, to collectively be thinking about how do we make changes, however small, however incremental, to begin this wave of change that can benefit us all.
And now Laura.
I was like, amen, sister, as she was speaking. Because you know what UPS stands for? United Problem Solvers. That's exactly the mentality that we have. We are the power of positive in everything we do. No, and it's, it came to light. I mean, when you think about the pandemic and the world needed a little bit of hope, UPSers stood tall, and we said, okay, we'll figure out how to keep delivering. We'll keep our people safe, because safety is everything, right? And we made sure that we found ways to adapt the science and the medicine to keeping our people safe, but we kept those networks going. And we bring that same kind of mentality to so many aspects aspects of how we show up in communities, because we don't just deliver packages. We've got a mentality of UPS is going to grow if the communities that we're serving are thriving and growing too. And too many of the communities that we look out, and by the way, we serve 220 countries and territories around the world, so we are in every community in the most developed countries and the developing countries. And so we look in those communities and say, what's it going to take to be able to lift others, not just out of poverty, but to realize their full potential? And that's why I was so jazzed to be a part of this panel discussion, because in too many communities we've met amazing women who have amazing products that they want to try to take global. We've met amazing entrepreneurs who have this new idea that could help other communities that we're aware of, but they happen to be on the other side of the world. And so we're all about trying to figure out ways to make the world not seem so large, to make those distances seem smaller by creating those connections between communities, which is why I actually love one of your initiatives for this year. It's North Rhine-Westphalia with the USA, bringing cities and communities together. I think that's what it's all about in terms of affecting positive change in the world. It's about making the world seem smaller, finding opportunities for everyone in it, and addressing the problems or the challenges that, as you said, you need equity. You need a level playing field, but a recognition that some of the discrimination and biases that may have been built in, maybe unconsciously, can be addressed so everyone can win, so everyone can thrive. And our company is all about delivering that. And my team knows, Petra's on my team, and so we believe in the power of positive. There ain't no challenge that's too big for us. We just got to figure out, how to overcome them, and we do it together. So
We do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You got it.
And I do want to point out that this is the woman that introduced the mindset of being unstoppable to me.
Nice.
And we live it every day, and I want to really thank you for that. So this is a transatlantic exchange of views. So now, of course, I would love to hear what's happening in Germany. And luckily, we have an expert here that knows very well the startup scene and the corporate world as well in Germany. So do you perceive any specific obstacles for women in business that maybe stops them right now?
Well, I told you about the legal framework and the infrastructure as well as a point. Concerning child care, Germany did a lot during the last years, and it's very important, but on the one hand, you are having a right to bring your child to some institution who's caring for the children, but in the end, when the places aren't there, it's a problem. Or if they're too expensive, on the one hand, and you're actually having a salary which doesn't even cover this, again, it's a discussion. And there are some other legal details, actually. We're all working on that, but it's very important. I talked to people from the crafting business. Some young women, they did their master in being a craft woman, and they actually really want to start businesses. But when they are 30 and having no family right now, but planning to have a family, and then calculating how they can actually fulfill what they are doing. If they are a painter, actually, there are security systems in Germany that you're not working, and there are especially as well liability systems. You're completely free when you're in the paternal leave or in the paternal break. If you are having your own business, this doesn't count at all. Mm-hmm. So you're not founding. You're not founding up to the point that you're ready with your family. Or something else which happens in Germany for generations, actually, that women are founding together with their partners. That's what actually I did in the 0 years. I founded a company together with my husband, and it's his company. I have no shares, and I actually still am doing all the administration stuff and the development and the change and the business development. So if you would take it for granted, actually, I'm a founder as well, but I didn't have this mindset to be a founder because this was the role, actually. Again, mindset you learned as well in the circumstances you grew up. And so I, of course, had families where my grandmas were actually self-employed. I was a farmer, and the other one had a little shop running, so she was the face. But in the end, it's a matter of how you come together within your family structures. And this can be changed a little bit. There are a lot of women in Germany who are taking over the responsibility a lot. And maybe it's just the way we represent ourselves. And that can make a big difference, actually. There's a lot of engagement, and we should look on it through a different perspective as well. And then, of course, the last thing, we really, really need to help each other. That's something in Germany we are not very good at, to sit in a row and say, you're making an amazing job and I help you, and if there's anything I can do for you, please ask. We're not asking, we're actually not helping and supporting that much. So this is something we should actually adapt from other cultures. I think I experienced some other cultures where this is a lot more common. Here, this role model being at home, like there's an old picture, kitchen, church, and children. It's still a little bit there, and we just need to give it another picture, and this is our responsibility.
So I say we take a picture of everyone in this room, because we've got a built-in network right here, right? And so it starts right here, right?
We'll do it at the end of the panel, and then I hope all of you will come on the picture. So you're right. I also think that we should encourage each other much more, and also say nice things and just support each other. And so, Stefania, you have such a great shop because you brought La Dolce Vita to Düsseldorf. and made life much sweeter and nicer for a lot of people. So you are such an accomplished businesswoman. You founded your own shop. You really made your dream into reality. You survived the pandemic, which was very tough. You were Entrepreneur of the Year 2017. You are really well known in the community here. So how did you make it happen?
I love what I do.
Yeah, that's the answer.
That's the answer. Maybe some words about my background. I was born in Italy. My dad is Italian, my mom is German. And I was 7 when we came to Germany. And I missed Italy so much. And I studied business economics here at the university in Düsseldorf, but I felt it's not my way of just sitting at the computer and working with Excel sheets and stuff. So I thought I want to bring Italy to Germany. So I found this nice little magic place in the backyard of Düsseldorf, and everybody said, "Are you crazy? Why are you doing this? Nobody will find you here. It's 2 years where it's been empty. You don't have heating. You only have 1 glass windows, and you are not a sommelier. You don't know anything about food. Maybe you're good in marketing. All the banks loved my business plans, but nobody wanted to give me money. I don't know. And I just jumped. And I don't admire problems. I just go. And yeah, sometimes you learn from them, like learning experiences. But most of them you get very good feelings and moments. You get to meet so many nice and wonderful people, so I just did it. This was 18 years ago, and this was my biggest obstacle, not to listen to all the criticism and not to listen to anything and anybody that has been doubting me, and just to listen to my heart and to love what I do. Then obviously building a team that has the same love and passion for it is not always easy, but I think we manage it quite good. Then obviously to earn reputation in Italy, especially in a male sector where everybody's looking at you at the beginning and say, yeah, you go girl. Right now I work with the Italian Chamber of Commerce, so we are bridge building. I like to connect people through food and through emotions. And then COVID hit. And again, not admiring problems. We were the first ones after 1 week to start our digital experiences. And thanks to UPS, I'm really a proud customer of you guys. We shipped a lot of parcels. The farthest was Brazil, so we connected really the world. Even we are a small business, we made it possible to have to share wonderful Italian moments throughout the pandemic, and this was really being an obstacle, making something out of it. And then the many things came afterwards. It's always a challenge, a day is daily business, you always have to reinvent yourself, but when you love what you do, you can achieve really everything you set your mind to. Thank you so much.
So inspirational. And now I would like to just ask you questions, and I hope just for a conversation. So one of my questions would be, do you have any specific empowerment strategies or any great success stories of businesswomen you could share, that kind of show how to overcome any obstacles?
I was going to say, oh my gosh, we have so many with our Women's Exporter program, and everyone, we think of them not as a customer, but as, a company that's inspired by that beautiful idea or that passion, and then UPS tries to, go alongside to help take that idea and make it go global. And so you're a perfect example of that kind of success story, especially through the pandemic, and we had so many of them, because think about what the pandemic did to anybody who had a retail shop. One of those small, beautiful shops that used to get all that foot traffic, and then with the pandemic, they weren't getting it. We did a lot of work to help companies go digital so that they could create that virtual, front facade so that customers could still see their products, and did everything we could to be able to share ideas of where their products might be, marketable, or there was a customer base of interest. So I can think of your example. There was this really cool story of this woman that runs a company called IB, and it was through a partnership with She Trades that we identified this amazing woman-owned business run by Jacqueline Garcia out of Mexico, bee producer that does all this traditional bee, I'm not a bee person, but they work with the bees and they make all this amazing honey, and it's the most wonderful honey, and they wanted to take it more places. They're now shipping it everywhere around the world, and we were a part of that, and it's kind of the fun part of the work that we do at UPS is finding these amazing small companies and then helping them realize their potential, and it's kind of what we do, because we think if there's more small and medium-sized businesses growing, we're helping communities thrive. So, yeah.
I think that's a very interesting thing, because it's all about finding people, finding women who are engaged, finding faces who are laughing, who really want to change something. To give you a small example, I'm working in an administration, and it used to be very male. It's not at all anymore, because many people, as well, our mayor, Stefan Keller, we were looking for people who could take over responsibility. And I did it in my own team because of some people left my office, because of age, or they have had another opportunity to work closer to their homes. So I've had 3 vacancies in my team. And I actually discovered people out of the team structure who could take over responsibility. There was one woman who was working for us for 20 years, and she has never had the idea of being a leader. She's a fantastic leader. I've had a young woman, actually the youngest one in another department, and she's very well educated, and I asked her, have you ever had the idea of taking over responsibility? And she said, Theresa, I'm marrying in 2 weeks, and you know I'm at the beginning of my 30s. I said, yes, and I'm flexible, and we're having children together. So what's the point? So these women as well are actually part of my leadership team right now. And I found within my own team structures, in the end, now 4 people who are with me leading the Office of Economic Development of the City of Düsseldorf. There hadn't been 4 women 4 years ago, but they always had been there. So you as well need to discover people who can take over responsibility and are burning for what they do, like you are. And in many structures, actually, people are looking for foreign managers, but there is so much you can do inside structures as well. So this is a way as well to discover more people who can take over responsibility and give all of this female empowerment a face.
Finding people, I think that's really the point. Find your tribe. That's it. Find your tribe, celebrate accomplishments, and don't let yourself set back by setbacks. And I love mornings like this to look at all these beautiful people that are here gathering, and you can feel the good vibes and the good energy here, and the empowering moments, and this is really what helps you overcome all the doubts. Because people buy from people, and when you connect yourself with good people, you first of all have good vibes, and then, one like attracts like. This is really what I think. You have to be aware of a positive attitude and face challenges and embrace the growth mindset. I think this is the way to go. Yeah.
I'm afraid if I start speaking, I'll just start rambling, because on this topic, as well as many others, actually, I just kind of bubble with all kinds of my own experiences, but also the inspirations I've had throughout the years. When you talk about women who succeed, I find that there is a certain commonality in the women that I've seen rise and seen taking on a place of prominence or a position of responsibility. And I don't know that they cared very much about what other people thought of them. And I say this from women like Madeleine Albright down to my cohorts of sisterhood who accompany me in the Foreign Service, who have been with me through the toughest moments in my life. And I have a daughter, I have a son too, they're twins, but with my daughter, my messaging is a little bit different, because I see how the grips of society and kind of the conventional thinking is already having its effect. And for years, when they didn't really socialize, from maybe ages 1 to 3, they were really very similar in their tastes and likes and so on. But once they started going to preschool, my daughter came back liking certain things, liking colors that wasn't the case before. Of course, she has her own personality, but I see the socialization and the effects that socialization can have. And there is a narrative out there there's a narrative that's also very present in my head, that there are certain roles that a woman occupy, and to break out of them is something that requires additional effort, and that isn't necessarily always accepted. And I say, I repudiate that. I reject that. There is no role, there is no one thing that you can or cannot do. And so my message to my daughter is, as much as possible, if I remember saying this to her, if I can give you one thing that will liberate you for the years to come, is not to care, not to think about what other people think of you. That will liberate you, and that will unshackle you to do so many things. So I hope that we help each other, that when women come together with other women, first of all, we listen intently and deeply, and men too, please listen intently and deeply to the person who's sitting in front of you, opening up and sharing, because you know what, it's hard to open up and hard to share. It's hard to share about your problems, it's hard to share about your fears, because you have to be vulnerable. And our society is not built to reward vulnerability. And so first of all, though, you have to be willing and open to receive that. Listen intently, but then just be supportive. Sometimes a person comes to me and they're not looking for solutions, because I find that most of the time we already know what the solution was, and we already know what the solution is in our own heads, or at least we have the outline, so we have the shape or this basic sketch of where we want to go to. But we need each other to kind of clear away the dross, clear away the obstacles, clear away our own fears and our own apprehensions in our own minds. And so just be there listening intently to the other person and be supportive. And when I went through coaching recently, and I found that that's what coaching was about. It wasn't that this person had more wisdom than I did. I had all the solutions within me, but this person helped me to get there faster, helped me to see that there were no obstacles in the way. And so that's what we can be for each other. The second thing that I want, so first thing is, if I can convey a message, please set aside what other people think about you, because the fact is, we all are a little bit scared, and we all have a little bit of vulnerability, and we all are a little bit unsure. And why should I let the other person's uncertainty somehow strengthen my own? That is just bunk. And the second is, I found there's one friend, and when I was in Shanghai, and we were on a rare afternoon when we both had time, we play hooky, and we just found ourselves in a cafe, and I was talking to her about, speaking of cafe, can I get some more coffee? I'm desperate for more coffee. And I was telling her about all the different things that I was facing and all the difficulties, and she just, finally, I think she just got tired of listening to me and all the, introspection, and she just said, no fear. Pauline, just have no fear. And please, thank you. As soon as she said that, I realized all the fear was fictitious. There were paper tigers, and if I just stood up, and if I just, do you guys watch Ted Lasso?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, there's a character, the female character, the owner of the football club. She does this thing where she stands up and she makes herself big and strong and loud, and she almost looks primal when she does that. I encourage you, so I didn't necessarily, I tried it in kind of a smaller scale, but I encourage you to find your primal voice and to make yourself big and to make yourself strong. And once you do that, you realize, I had it all along. I had all that voice, I had all that strength, I had all that power, I had all that might all along. And so my second message to my daughter and to anyone else, and I have to tell this to myself too, is have no fear. Have no fear. It doesn't mean everything's easy. In fact, my staff hates this when I say it, but I frequently say, if it's not hard, it's not worth doing. If it's easy, it's easy, everyone would do it. If it's hard, it's not worth doing. And so it doesn't mean that it won't be hard. It doesn't mean that you won't encounter failures or hurdles, but that's just a stopping point on the way to where you really want to go. And so don't let what other people think of you set the limits of what you can reach, and have no fear and go for it.
So I'm gonna pick up on that. So she and I must be sisters because I got those same lines in my head. But the other one is, you can't fail if you keep trying. So in my life, I have stumbled, I have fallen, but you know what? If you get back up, you realize, okay, I learned a little bit more and I can keep going. And that's one of the most powerful things you can do, because if you don't have any fear of failure and you just adopt that kind of mindset of how can I learn from what maybe I didn't do as well as I wanted to, or why didn't I get that job, or why didn't I get that opportunity, or what could I do differently to be able to move to that next level. It's been the most liberating thing, because then you don't worry about failing and you don't care. You don't care what anybody thinks, because you're like, I'm not a failure, I'm just still learning, and I'm just going to get better and better every single time. Some of the things that I've done in my career are, I've done things outside of the work environment that were harder, so that it made some of the things that I was doing in the work environment seem easy. So I have done crazy things, like I have done Ironman races, where, let me tell you, I've stumbled and fallen, and I've gotten back up and I've kept going. I'm doing Spartan races now, and the team knows it because we're in the middle of one of the most challenging negotiations with our amazing partners, the Teamsters, and everybody is wringing their hands and worried, are we going to get a good contract? By the way, the answer is absolutely we will, because we're negotiating a win-win-win contract. But in the meantime, I'm like, I'm going to do something really hard. So I'm doing Spartan races now, which is all about getting over obstacles and really challenging yourself physically, because when you're doing that, then you come into the workplace, you're like, oh, Teamsters, that's easy, no problem. I don't have to climb that rope and ring that bell up there or move that 70-pound, sandbag up a mountain. But it's that idea of, like you've been saying, Theresa, it's mindset. You can do whatever you tell yourself you can accomplish. And I actually was really blessed in my life. For all the men in the room, and if you are this kind of man, thank you for it, because I had a dad who told me, you can be anything. And by the way, I was the first person in my family to go to college. And if you would have asked anyone in my family, would I ever rise to the ranks of being now on the executive leadership team of an amazing company like UPS, little girl in me might have said, well, I don't think so. But I had a dad who said, yes, you can. I have an amazing U.S. Marine, husband who says, yes, you can, and yes, you will. And it's that reinforcing confidence that also helps, because you can do anything you put your mind to. If I can do an Ironman, I can do anything. And that's what you got to kind of tell yourself. Because I think too many women suffer from that imposter syndrome, where we tell ourselves, no, we really can't do that. Or let me tell you the 100 things I don't know. I don't think many men tell themselves all the things that they don't know. They tell themselves all the things they can know. And so I just listened to my husband, my dad, my brother, and I'm like, okay, if you're telling yourself that, well, I sure as heck can. And that's the change that I think happens over time. And then you adopt this mentality of, I can do anything. I can be fierce and bigger than I am. I don't have to worry about failing, because I'm learning every step of the way. And so I think that's the secret to success. It's having it in your mind, adopting that fearless mindset, and then just going along and finishing the race no matter what. No matter how bloodied and bruised you are, you're finishing, and then you're taking on the next challenge along the way. So, and I bet you do that all the time, because you get
I actually did the Mud Masters also, and so I know what you're talking about. Yeah, jumping through mud and all this stuff. I love also in the daily routines to do every day one thing that I didn't do before, or do things differently, just to keep my mind fresh and the mindset set up right every day. And I choose to do experiences every day newly. So yeah.
So I think our next experience needs to be experiencing her small business and the amazing things she sells.
Yeah, you're all welcome. Yeah. So whenever you come by and visit us, yeah.
I think now you understand how this woman showed me what the mindset of an unstoppable woman is. Because that's what keeps us going a lot of times when times are hard. And I really thank you. For me, this is kind of the key message also. You all have it in you already. And also, don't be afraid to fail. Because we never really open up about the failures. We keep on telling how amazing we are. But you know, this is also important to share and also show, like, what did I learn from that? Because I think everybody failed at some point, you know, with projects. And that's part of life, I believe. And now we talked a lot about women, but then the question is, what about the other 50% of the population? And luckily, we have also a lot of men in the room here. So my question is also, how can they become the most supportive, most effective allies?
Well, I kind of touched on it.
Yeah,
by the way, for all the men in the room, I love men. So it's okay. I love the partnership. I love the allyship. I love the support, because there's this beautiful Chinese saying, and you probably, I don't know it in Chinese, but yeah, like women hold up 50 per half the sky. And I think about it that it's a partnership, right? Raising children is a partnership. Great children are raised by strong mothers and fathers together, or in some cases, strong partners together, right? And it's the allyship that makes all the difference. I have risen in my career not because a woman gave me a hand up, unfortunately. I worked in a lot of male-dominated industry sectors. I started out in the Foreign Service. By the way, I know the journey that you've been on. I actually joined the Foreign Service after the class action lawsuit, because they used to make women resign if they got married or had children, and so I was one of the first class of officers brought in when the lawsuit was won, and I took it upon myself actually to bid on the most dangerous post possible, to say, I am woman, hear me roar, and I can serve in some of these difficult posts just like anyone else. But men along the way have been the catalyst for that change, because that lawsuit was actually brought by a combination of men and women together, saying our diplomatic service should look like the face of the American polity. We should have representation from all walks of life, so when we're talking about American values or American policy, it reflects the character and the face of the different people that make up what's beautiful, our beautiful country. But along the way too, I was in the U.S. Trade Negotiating Office, where oftentimes sitting across the table from all male negotiating teams. I remember in particular one of the most challenging negotiations was with the Saudis, and the Saudis refused to negotiate with women on the other side of the team. We at the time had President Clinton, who said, this is my negotiating team, and this is who you will negotiate with if you are going to accede to the WTO. So it was that support that we got from the highest levels, from a man president who said, this is my all-woman negotiating team, and I support them representing U.S. interests. Think about it along the way in my career at Time Warner, where women were measured by 36, 24, 36, in an industry sector that unfortunately had a horrible Me Too movement. But it was men alongside me that said, this is someone who has incredible perspectives and contributions to bring in terms of how Time Warner as a company can grow. Fast forward to Citigroup and financial services, again, very male-dominated, but there's been that change in the industry sector, and it is, again, because of great male leaders. I think about Ajay Banga and Jamie Dimon, who I had the opportunity to work with, who said, you know what, we want to bring more women into financial services because we recognize we have a role to play in society in supporting access to financial services for both men and women. And now ending up at UPS, how awesome is it that after 116 years, we have a woman CEO, and let me tell you, she kicks ass. She's amazing in terms, and that is her slug line, man. She started out the first day and said, we are going to deliver greatness and kick some ass, and that is Carol Tomei. She was the CFO of Home Depot. She came into the organization, but again, it's because the board of directors, then predominantly male, said, you know what, we need someone that has the expertise and the experience that only Carol Tomei has. They didn't look at her as the woman CEO. They looked at the person who we needed as an organization to lead us through this pandemic and help us get strength. So for all the men in the room, continue to be those kind of he for she men, because those he for she men end up, I think, having great partners, and through that partnership, we can deliver incredible growth, not just in organizations, but in our communities. And I'm a true believer in that because my life and my career has been an example of that.
So I echo everything that everyone has said. As to, whenever we have one of these forums where we talk about women and men, or where we talk about minority or something, I always look around the room to see what kind of reaction I'm getting from the people who are not necessarily part of that targeted group. Because here's a fundamental thing that I have come to realize, and this is also part of the debate when we talk about discrimination against any class, is that it's not the job of the victim group. It's not the job of the discriminated against group. It's not the job of the disadvantaged group to deliver solutions. It is not their job. It is not their responsibility. It is the job of all of those who are able and who have access to power and who have access to solutions to recognize that there is a problem and deliver the solution. And the fact that you do, and if you do, that we all rise. And so we have to be thinking about, this is not a problem for me to solve. Women's mistreatment, inequality, or any kind of disadvantage or hurdles or whatever stands in the way of women rising to the top, it is not their job to remove them. Not that we disabuse of ourselves of responsibility and that we don't raise our voice and that we don't say and we become this, we take on this victimhood mentality and wallow in our problems necessarily. We have to say this is what it is, right? And we have to say this is my experience. We have to make it known. We have to make it understood. But it is our collective responsibility. And that is where every single person, I don't care what your gender is, I don't care what your affiliation, I don't care what your race and what your whatever profile, you have a stake because you participate in the society. You have a stake because you participate in the basic makeup of our society. And so you have a role to play. You benefit from the system. But in turn, you have a responsibility to the system. You have a responsibility to your tribe, to your neighborhood, to your family unit, or to whatever it is that you're a part of. You have a responsibility in delivering the solution. So I would say one thing though, and this is something that I see a lot in Germany perhaps, is that and I see that in my organization too, is that we do wallow on problems. We do tend to talk about what the problems are, and we bemoan that. I think that, someone taught me early on in my career, there was somebody, a high-level visitor, who was coming around to every single post and looking at all of our problems, and people just love to talk about their problems. And that person said to me, I want to hear about problems because that's what I'm about. I'm about fixing them. But come to me with a proposal for a solution, or come to me with some suggestions on what I can do to help you fix it, or take it as my responsibility to fix it. So it's a collaborative and collective process. It's a collaborative and collective project. And the fact is, though, more and more, if we all contribute, if we all put our oars in, if we all become invested, we rise collectively. Well, there's a phrase I think that came to me last year at an AmCham event actually, is that all boats rise with the rising of the tide. So if we raise the tide, we all rise together. So that is my message to every single person, but especially to those who are closer, who are positioned closer to the solutions, is to become a part of the stakeholder and to really invest in that collective solution.
Thank you so much, Pauline, because I think this is what we really need. And maybe to follow up on you, there's something we really need to consider. It's communication. Throughout all my jobs and throughout all my positions, I always have the feeling that we need much more voices to bring us together. To tell each other that we can make a difference, that we can actually start. The faces who are actually communicating right now are so important, and we need to engage more people to talk about what we are actually working on. And I can only say I have a husband at home who's supporting me. I cannot describe it, how much he's in my back. He was there for all these years. I'm married for 13 years. And he did everything which I actually needed throughout the last years to make me stable and to make me believe in myself. And there are a lot of men who are doing exactly the same thing at their houses and homes. And if we see a lot of this, or a bit more of this actually right now here in Germany, I think we can follow this development. We're still in the middle of it. There are so many changes throughout the last 3 to 4 or 5 years. We're discussing much more on gender issues in leadership teams, in many different cases, in founding stories, in investment stories. So it's a great way actually, and yeah, we can do it actually together.
Yeah, I think I'll keep it short because you said everything already. I think we need more male voices instead of echoes that actually do things and create an environment where women can rise and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. A big shout out, I would say, to all the supportive men that are here also. Thank you for being here. And now we're coming to the final part. Unfortunately, I could do this for many, many more hours. It's really great to hear all your experiences. And but we have to come to an end. And so now I would like to hear from each of you, like, if you could turn back time, what kind of earth-shattering advice would you give to your younger self? Whoever wants to start?
Okay, I'm gonna. Well, to be marketing appropriate, I'd tell myself be unstoppable. But no, the advice I'd give myself that I learned along the way is don't wait for a title. Don't wait to be told you can lead. If you see the problem and you know the solution, start being the person that creates that alliance for change. And recognize you don't do anything by yourself. Everything is always done when you bring others along, because at UPS, we are an amazing company of 543,000 people, but we are united as one to make a difference together. So you have to have that mentality, but don't wait for the title. Just go lead from where you are, and you'll be amazed that when you stand up and say, I've got an idea and I'm going to take some action, and you get some allies around you, the power of change that you can advance just by taking that mindset. And so, sometimes people would tell me, you're stepping outside of your lane. Thankfully, I married a man named Greg Lane so that I could tell everybody that every lane is my lane now. So, but that's the fundamental issue. Don't wait to be told. Go do. Be that action-oriented person that says, I'm going to take the reins and I'm going to lead the change. So.
So I already mentioned a few. One is just, don't let other people create your narrative. Don't listen to the naysayers or the doubters, or just simply care about what other people think. Ultimately, they don't live in your life, they don't live in your shoes. And I've also mentioned no fear, but I think if I were to tell my younger self, it's exactly what Laura said, is don't wait. Because sitting where I sit now and having done what I've done now, I think there were times when I just didn't seize on the opportunity, or I waited, or I let my self-doubt tell me I wasn't ready for this one thing, that somehow I wasn't ready. And then I look around and I see all these other people who are equally unready as I was, doing exactly the thing that I wanted to do and getting recognition for it, but not just getting recognition, because life isn't really necessarily about that, but living what they wanted to be, and becoming who they're supposed to be. And I would say the same thing, don't wait. Just very recently I had this realization, and it was kind of this earth-shattering moment for me personally, that my son took a picture of me, I looked at it later, I was like, I was so, I'm made up, wrinkles, anything, I was just a complete mess. And I looked at this person, I felt like I didn't recognize her in a little way, in some ways, because I felt like, gosh, you have become who you're supposed to be. And it was a very kind of ephemeral realization, and it was very fleeting, because I felt like, wow, that was profound, and I feel like it's gonna just slip through my fingers if I don't hold on to it. I need to take a moment and recognize that. So when you have those moments, ladies and gentlemen, please hold on to that and recognize that. You have arrived at a certain place, and your floor has been just put beneath you, and it's a little bit higher than it was before. But I would just say, I wish in that moment that I had come to that 10 years ago. And because how much more powerful, how much more beneficial to society, to the people around me, to my own life and to my children could I have been if I didn't waste that time. So absolutely ringing endorsement to what Laura said, don't wait.
Yeah, for me it's a short thing. I would tell my younger me not to be perfect, not to want to be perfect, and to allow myself to learn. I'm learning a lot right now, and this is completely normal because we're changing, we're in a very volatile world. We need to learn a lot every day, but I first of all wanted to be perfect, so in the end I studied 4 times and didn't know what to do at all. So there are a lot of possibilities in life if you don't want to be perfect.
I would say listen to your heart, listen to your inner instincts, find the things that make you forget to check your phone, that make you forget time. These are the things that lead you the way you have to go, and don't listen to any critics. There's nobody, I don't know any critics, correct me if I'm wrong, that a statue was built to. So just go and do what your stomach tells you. And I think, let me close with that. I think that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now I would also like to ask Ella on the stage, because she has been so helpful with setting up this event.
Thank you, Ella.
Thank you so much. And now I also want to thank AmCham for setting up this event together with UPS. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And now we have some small gifts also for you, Ella. Ella is really an unstoppable woman as well. I really want to point that out.
I just want to say really quick one word about it. So our theme today was being unstoppable, and we had a project just recently in May with UPS to make 4 small businesses unstoppable. We gave 4 online businesses the chance to do a stationary retail in a pop-up store in Hamburg, and we have one of those wonderful businesses here today, Basenbande, led by the wonderful Grit Kowacki, so also an unstoppable woman. And she has her products over here on site, so feel free to stop by and chat and try them out, of course. And I have products from a second of one of the 4 shops here as well to say thank you, from Schokofoto, and they are also led by a wonderful woman named Marion Franz in Hamburg, and they print logos and photos on chocolate. So
And chocolate is always the answer.
exactly, especially when it's UPS and AmCham chocolate. So that's what we would like to present to you, and thank you for the time.
Yeah, and since I have the microphone in my hands now, I take the opportunity to also introduce you to the place you're at. So Petra already told you my name. I'm Ella, and I have the pleasure of leading this TechHub.K67. We are a community space for startups and companies who want to accelerate their innovation capabilities. And what you just experienced, this whole event, is a proper K67 experience, I would say. We thrive on bringing together people. This means in our everyday work, this means startups and corporates who want to work together, startups with startups who want to learn from each other, and also corporates with corporates who want to learn from each other and just get to know each other. Yeah, and with events like this and many other formats, this is exactly what we do. So feel free to network, to walk around the place. If you have any questions, feel free to approach me. We have a lot of croissants left. We have our great barista there preparing coffee. So enjoy the rest of the morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I would also like to ask Frank on the stage, as representative of AmCham.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Petra, and the rest of the panel. I think that was fantastic. I had high expectation, and I have to say I'm not disappointed.
Okay,
so thank you very much, everyone. And also thank you very much for all of you coming here today and showing your interest. I'm really, really thrilled to see all of you, so thank you for that. And hope to see you next time that we have an event here as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of the day.